time to see if we can make this thing run so we can check out the condition of the engine and transmission. First thing we're going to have to do is a fuel pump. So I've got the car lifted up. There's a couple different options. You can cut a hole in the floor, which I've done before, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit easier just to drop the tank. Hopefully there's not a whole lot of stuff in it. First thing I'm going to do is chop the rest of the exhaust here. I already took the catalytic converter out in case all the exhaust was plugged up. So I'll chop it off here. And then, looks like up in here we've got one strap bolt right here. Looks like 14 or 15. And then we've got a second one behind that little tab that says fuel. Then we're going to have to do those two hose clamps for the filler and the vent. We have one clip on that side for the fuel output line, and then a couple of evap lines in there we're going to have to take off. Also that electrical connector. So I'm going to get this exhaust pipe chopped here and then stick a jack under. The fuel tank is out and it's pretty nasty in there. I can definitely say this is the worst fuel I've ever seen. It's pretty much black. So here's the fuel pump assembly. I was hoping to just replace the pump inside there, but looks like I'm going to end up getting a whole assembly here. We got a little broken connection there, and everything is just super rusty and brittle. That pickup filter is supposed to be clear or yellow. So I'm afraid if I start working on this thing, it's just going to fall to pieces. I'm going to go ahead and try it anyway, since I plan on ordering a new one, just in case I get lucky and I can get this thing open and repair it. So, yep, that's where we're at. So there's a coolant pipe that you can see. It looks kind of rusty, right in the middle of the screen, and that leads to the heater hoses, to the heater core. Well, I can see the heater core has already been bypassed. That hose is leaking, it's rusted out. It goes into the left side there, where the thermostat housing is. This is the fitting. It's a quick connect fitting. I've already cleaned it up a lot. So what I'm going to do is, instead of messing with that metal pipe that I could never find a replacement for, and it's in a terrible spot, we're going to make a plug. I could just get a 3/4 MPT plug like this, but I'm going to make one because this is a gambler car and you don't want to spend money on it. So this is a piece of a bolt. I'm going to stick this in this way. I just cut it to a certain length, leave it a little bit short so I can weld a bead around in there. And then for the top part, we're going to use a sealed acorn lug nut, stick it in there in the top, weld a bead around that, and then I can just thread this whole thing back in. Just a little interesting idea for you. Well, it's time for the first hopeful startup of the vehicle under its own power. I test started it with some starting fluid and heard it run. We've got a coolant system repaired, and the biggest part was the fuel system. It's pretty much all new. Fuel tank, fuel pump, sending unit. I rebuilt the fuel injectors. I tried to buy some, but couldn't get them. So anyway, we're going to see how it goes. See if we're getting fuel pressure. Okay, yep. Getting fuel pressure, so possible we're not getting any spark. Running. Okay. Seems like it's got a pretty good misfire, but it's definitely running. Well, cool. See if we can get this thing to run good and we'll go from there. There was a pretty big time lapse in between when I did the last video and the most recent one of actually running the car under its own power. So it's been crazy hot here, and I've been really busy with other projects. So I was just kind of working on this here and there. But I did a few things. So we got the whole new fuel tank in, and new sending unit and fuel filter. And then I did a video in between of cleaning the fuel lines out. So because of how bad the tank was, I needed to clean the fuel lines out. So you can watch that video. I'll put it in the description. I did order injectors, but never got them. Thanks a lot, eBay. So I ended up rebuilding these. I replaced all the O-rings, basket filters, and I reflowed them. So they seem like they're okay. And then once I was in here, you know, gaskets and things like that, cleaned everything up. Did a piston soak with Marvel Mystery Oil. I put a gallon of Seafoam in the engine. And don't recommend that, but ran it for probably 5 minutes or so. Had to do a new water pump. This one was leaking without even running. I mean, the old one was just dripping out. Let's see, what else? Spark plugs. I had to replace a couple of the heater hoses. So this is one of the front ones here. This one goes back to the back and connected there. And then there was a second one down inside there. And I think I may have a picture to roll in of how bad they were. They were crazy rusty. But yeah, so that's most of what I've done. Just a lot of fuel line work. Fuel work and coolant stuff. I'm going to have to do a bunch of vacuum lines. I don't know how old this battery is, but I got it to work. A bunch of cycling it up and down. If you know what you're doing with batteries, you can actually bring them back to life a lot of times. So, this thing's been sitting overnight. I did get to drive it in the backyard. We'll see if it'll crank up today. It is really loud. No smoke today, which is good. Had a pretty good misfire when it started up, and it was the same way yesterday, but I ran it for about 10 minutes and it cleared up a lot. I think this thing just needs to run, really. Alright, so there it is. There's our update. Hopefully only good stuff from here.